budget, ActionSA currently outlining their role in the report that was adopted in the National Assembly yesterday. Speaking now is Ethel Trollip. Let's listen in.
That is why we are in this situation. And I also want to dispel the misleading claims of heroism yesterday in Parliament by the parties that voted against this. They are not heroes. They are far from heroes. They are the parties that know that any delay, further delay, would have meant that the 1st of May would have brought with it an increase in VAT. So they weren't being clever. In fact, they were being completely malicious because they know that if they delayed it any further, and if you have any doubt about that, go and read what the banks have been saying. The banks are saying that VAT is going to be implemented on the 1st of May because they know. So instead of being heroes, they've actually plunged us deeper into this crisis. So I want to reinforce during this press conference what I said on the 19th of February and what we stand for as a caucus, that the government must cut the fat and leave VAT. And we've been saying that consistently. From the outset, ActionSA has fiercely opposed any increase in VAT and the stealth tax of personal income tax bracket creep. We remain resolute in our commitment to shielding ordinary South Africans from unjust and unnecessary tax hikes because the GNU can't do what it is supposed to do. I'll give you an important context around the fiscal framework. South Africans are rightly concerned. We must take seriously and address with every effort that we can to deal with their concerns. We cannot allow the spread of reductionist, malicious and outright false narratives that are being perpetrated by bad faith actors. These do nothing to reassure South Africans and in fact cause more harm, especially when they come from those who offer no practical solutions. No amount of petulance and childlike behavior and soundbite politics is going to fix this mess that we're in. What must be made clear is that yesterday's adoption of the report was about determining the size of government spending and was the first step in kickstarting the substantive deliberations necessary to develop the appropriation, revenue and tax bills in the coming days, weeks and months. The stark reality is that government expenditure has spiraled out of control with widespread wastage, placing our fiscal position in serious jeopardy. This demands tough yet responsible decisions. Engaging in grandstanding and political brinkmanship does nothing to resolve the crisis. In fact, it compounds the crisis. Without responsible action, we risk finding ourselves months down the line without a set budget and the economy in tatters. And you know, consider where we will be without a budget. More teachers will lose their jobs. Unemployed doctors will not be employed. SARS will not receive the funding it requires to fix and fill the tax, the budget gap. Importantly, South Africa ActionSA has proposed alternatives. We have done this in the Standing Committee on Finance. Alan Beasley, my colleague, has done it consistently in the committee. He's met with the minister, I've met with the minister, we've met with the minister, he's met Treasury officials, he's met with SARS, he's met with the Commissioner. He has engaged throughout, and in fact, the 4 billion rand increase to SARS is directly because of the intervention by ActionSA. So, we propose and have alternatives. South African Revenue Services Recovery Program, if funded with just 2 billion rand annually, could recover between 20 and 50 billion per year, according to SARS' own estimates. That fixes our problem. The additional 1.5 billion allocated to SARS in 25-26 and 4 billion over the next 2 years will significantly improve SARS' capacity to boost revenue collection. Now, isn't it amazing that on the day of the fiscal framework debate in Parliament, SARS disclosed that they recovered a record amount of tax revenue, 1.855 trillion rand. 8.8 billion rand more than they estimated for the year, and 114 billion rand more than the year before. So essentially, we don't have a 28 billion rand tax gap. We've now only got a 20 billion rand tax gap because we collected 8.8 more than we expected. So the solution to this impasse is capacitating SARS to collect the revenue that we know is out there. Imagine how much revenue is being lost to illegal trade, illicit trade. illegal immigrants trading and sending their money back home to their countries, black market trade, wallet transactions, financial transactions, and as Bosa said yesterday, gambling. 1.2 billion rand, a trillion rand industry, gambling, 1.2 trillion rand, and they pay 5 billion rand in tax. Sort that out, and we sort our problem out. This is precisely why ActionSA has been advocating for increased SARS funding since day one, to ensure that South Africans are not forced to bear the burden of repeated tax increases. Now, on the announcement by the ANC and government at the conclusion of yesterday's events, we want to make the following quite unambiguously clear. The failure of the ANC or government communications to accurately convey its contents, evident in yesterday's statement and social media posts which materially misrepresent the facts, and the report that was voted on and passed in Parliament, does not change the report's substance or lessen the importance of the recommendations. I've spoken to the Minister, I've spoken to the Chief Whip of the ANC, and we have told them it's not up to their interpretation. It's up to their commitments, and it's up to the recommendations in that report that was passed by Parliament that they must implement. All stakeholders would do well to remember that the budgeting process still involves multiple bills that will be voted on in the coming months. Our support remains conditional on the strict fulfillment of the agreement to scrap VAT increase and income tax bracket creep through alternative proposals, several of which have already been outlined. On the DA's legal action, they're well within their rights to pursue legal action. We encourage them, in fact, to do that. We believe in the separation of powers. It's entirely up to them. What must be noted about the DA is that ActionSA made genuine efforts to engage them on the budget. Not only were we rebuffed continuously, we were insulted, we were maligned, and we were treated, Alan Beasley was treated with such contempt by Mr. Mark Burke, who has made it an art form to be unreasonable and rude and arrogant. And he has alienated everybody in the standing committee because they simply won't engage. We have engaged with the ANC, they engaged us in fact. I have engaged with the EFF. I wrote to the MKP, they blue-ticked us, that's fine, no problem, but we did reach out. But what is ironic, and I want you and the country to understand this, the DA spoke to nobody other than the ANC making their demands, their unreasonable demands. They overplayed their hand. They didn't engage us, fine. They didn't engage the IFP, GNU partner. They didn't engage RISE, GNU partner. Were they serious about finding a solution to this impasse? No. I believe they are propagating this impasse at their interest. They are not putting South Africans first. Even a legal delay is going to delay this matter even further. And what's going to happen is the 1st of May, VAT is coming. So they try what they may. They can try and scapegoat everybody else for the fact that they overplayed their hand and lost. It's their problem, and they're not fixing it. So ActionSA, as the only constructive opposition in Parliament, has taken deliberate steps to consult as broadly as possible to find a resolution in the best interest of South Africa. Yes, there are issues. That is why I actually wrote to the Speaker and the Chairman of the committee before the Standing Committee on Finance met on Monday. I wrote to them. I said, get legal advice. Bring legal advisors to the committee so that we don't make missteps, so that we are guided step by step in a process that's never happened before in South Africa. We believe we followed the necessary steps. I listened to the Speaker yesterday responding to the letters that were written to her by other political parties. We believe we followed the necessary steps. And here's an important thing. The DA might go to court today, but they participated in this room, in the Standing Committee on Finance. They voted. The next day they went to Parliament, they participated, and they voted. They are involved in this process as much as everybody else is. They can't wash their hands from this process. This is new, it's uncharted, and we're doing the best we can, and we're the only party that came up with pragmatic solutions. These include a SARS recovery program. If funded with just 2 billion rand annually, as I said, I've said that. In conclusion, finally, The work is now underway to collaborate with all parties in exploring every possible alternative over the next 27 days. The clock is ticking. I was talking to the Minister last night and the Chief Whip of the ANC and telling them, now we have to find a solution. We oppose any VAT increase, we oppose tax creep, and if we don't find a solution in 27 days' time, do not look to us to support you to pass the rest of this budget. The passage of this budget is still a long, long way away. And the people that they have convinced to get them out of the hole that they've dug for themselves are not going to continue doing that if they show no good faith. So we're going to hold the ANC to account. And you know who holds the key to all of this? Is the Minister. The Minister who brought the budget with a 0.5% VAT increase. The same Minister who trimmed off 1.5% in 21 days. We can trim off the other 0.5% easily. And as I said before, 20 billion now, because we've raised 8.8 billion more, 20 billion in a 2 trillion rand budget is nothing. We can go and find that money and prevent the poor people having to pay for poor governance and wasteful expenditure. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much to the caucus leader. I think we've made good time. Well done. Thank you very much. I'm going to open for questions, and I'm also going to allow my colleagues to say what they need to say if in fact they want to share their thoughts, because this is a team effort and we've worked very, very hard. I don't think that we can be as clear as we have been this morning. We've said cut the fat, leave the VAT. We really can't explain ourselves more than that. And we want South Africans to be very clear about that. And this misinformation, disinformation that is being peddled, we are here with you this morning to clarify that. So I'm opening up for questions. Please tell us where you come from, your name, your media house that you represent, and the question that you want to ask. You are welcome to ask any member of this caucus questions, but I would like us to keep to time because you have told us that you have got limited time. So go for it. All right. Anyone else? All right. Go ahead.
Jason Felix from News 24. Just a question to anyone in the area, but I think more to Mr. Bell. We spoke to the Minister of Finance yesterday, and he said that just use the mic. He basically said that we will have a 0.5 VAT increase, and we will have the tax brackets adjusted and all of that, because there's no way out of this. There's no room to find money somewhere else. You've said that you will not support that. What happens now then? According to ActionSA's understanding, has the VAT increase, the 0.5% percentage points, has that been cancelled? Was that been rejected? Will it go ahead? And also, can we expect ActionSA to support the ANC going forward? Because to many of our surprise, you guys came out as the so-called kingmaker. Can we expect that going forward in any other major issue that might arise, the NHI land expropriation and all of that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jason.
No, let's take the second one. CL, go ahead, please.
Good morning. I'm Llewellyn Prince from Netwerk 24. Just to add on what Jason asked, is ActionSA open to join the GNU? Because we've seen that there were people that say that the ActionSA has actually betrayed the South Africans, because they said before that they will never be able to work with the ANC, and now we see that you're working with the ANC. So I just want some clarity on that point, why ActionSA decided to work with the ANC with regard to this budget. And also the other first question that I asked, is ActionSA open to join the GNU? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You have another question?
Good morning, Lerato. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News. If you could just clarify, what are the proposals you made to the DA that you said they were not opening to working with you or rebuffed from you? DA leader John Steenhuisen said last night that your proposals were very similar. So I'm just trying to understand why then would you have been rebuffed? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Here's how we're going to handle that. The first question, I'm going to give it to the caucus leader. The second question, I'm going to give to the chair. And the very last question from Lindsay, I'm going to give to our Honorable Alan Beasley, who is part of the STOF. the Standing Committee on Finance. Thank you very much, Caucus Leader.
Okay, look, I don't want to override the director of this program, but I also want to make comments on all three of those questions. So we will enrich this by having everyone make a contribution. First of all, the Minister of Finance, Jason, obviously has to say the 0.5% is going to stay. He was the one who brought it. But they were in a position where the budget was going to be, the fiscal framework was going to be voted against. They came to us in a problem. We said to them, we'll give you conditional support. We believe, and as I've said, 8 billion of the shortfall has already been made up. It's there, it's in the coffers. The 20 billion we can find. We have a document here. I'm not going to read it all out, but we said these are the conditions for supporting the budget. Tax matters, zero VAT basket must be expanded. Personal income tax bracket creep must be adjusted. Support for ActionSA's legislative proposal. Reform package. Cut the size of cabinet. Zero tolerance corruption bill. A spending review on parliamentary spending. SARS accountability report. Justice for Lily Mine. Dedicated anti-corruption funding. NPA investigating funding. Increased support for municipal infrastructure. This is the document that we tabled with a whole laundry list of things that we wanted. We said to the ANC when they came to us, we said we're prepared to forego these things because the most important thing for us is to prevent the increase of VAT, to prevent bracket creep on personal income tax. They made a commitment that they're going to do that. Now, I don't know when the minister told you what he told you, but last night he also went on record to say he's 90% of the way to find the revenue, to fill the budget gap. He made that comment. I sent him an SMS, I'm going to read it to you so that we all understand. And I've told the ANC we're going to be explicit and frank about what we've negotiated, with who, and what we expect when people must fulfill their commitments. Sorry, I just need to open my phone. I'll read it to you. Sent him a whole long email to say we're concerned about the communication, concerned about statements and utterances which are contrary to what we'd agreed. And I said, this matter cannot be about saving face. This matter is about saving poor South Africans from having to pay more when they can't. And he responded. He said, I would imagine that you will be able to generate alternatives to replace revenue proposals. Now, I met with Rise and Bosa yesterday because we were the parties that got this past the post. And they have said that they've already tabled alternatives. I know Alan Beasley has tabled plenty. Here's our document I've just read from. So we will find that money. And Enoch Godongwana must come up with a solution, how to put it, whether he brings a gazette to put a moratorium on a tax increase. That's his job. He has the authority. Llewellyn, around the GNU, those people who say we've betrayed our electoral commitments are the very people who made the same electoral commitments. They're the very people who formed the multi-party charter, initiated through the Moonshot Pact. John Steenhuisen's on the record to say that we cannot work with the people who caused the same problems. Okay, but now they're working with the ANC. So isn't it ironic that only the DA can work with the ANC? That's not only ironic, it is unacceptable. We have a situation now where no party has a majority. We govern in the city of Tshwane. With the ANC, the EFF and other political parties, everyone said Tshwane would collapse. To the contrary, it's not collapsed. It's growing and starting to shine as a city under the leadership of ActionSA Mayor Dr. Nasipi Moya. So there's the thing. We are prepared to work with everyone in South Africa. We are a party about fixing South Africa, not making sure that we break South Africa by bringing a deadlock to the budget so that VAT is increased in order to negotiate more control and leverage in the GNU. That's completely selfish. Will we work with the ANC? Last year, we had an opportunity to go into the GNU. We didn't. We chose to be the fulcrum or the pivot between a massive government of 70% and a big bloc of new opposition formed called the Progressive Caucus, which is actually a regressive caucus. So we're the biggest party in between those two. That was a strategic decision where we would locate ourselves. If the DA leave the GNU, or if they are kicked out of the GNU, we will reconsider our position, because the DA is good at opposition. Then the opposition space is suddenly disproportionately full, and the government space might be limited. So we will reevaluate. We will do that. But only once this VAT matter is sorted. We had no conditional agreements or transactional undertakings with the ANC about this. And then as far as the rebuttal, all I can tell you is that for the last 4 nights, I have hardly slept, and my colleagues, through interaction with the ANC and the EFF. I was in the JSE with Julius Malema. We were talking on Sunday night at 12:30 at night. We were interacting, collaborating, trying to find a solution. Dololo from MKP, radio silence from the DA. Nobody else engaged us. So the rebuffal story is a fact, and anyone who denies that is a liar. Thank you, Doc.
Thank you. I guess for me, the first thing would be to remind all of us about the first chapter in our Constitution that speaks to a multi-party system of democratic government to ensure accountability, responsiveness, and openness. And we are part of that multi-party democracy. And we will ensure that we have a responsibility to ensure that there is a government. We have a responsibility to ensure that there is a budget. But we also have to ensure that we abide by our principles of efficiency, no corruption. And those things will always remain. We've said before that we will deal with issues on an issue-by-issue basis. For now, the issue is the budget. Let us not compound the budget with other issues. Let us not compound it with NHI or expropriation. Those will be dealt as issues that need to be dealt with. We also uphold the rule of law. When something is the law, even if it doesn't make sense, we will engage with it and we will expose that it doesn't make sense or you're going about it the wrong way. That will be our commitment to engage with NHI or expropriation if those things are abused or are used for nefarious purposes or they will simply not work. Will we support the ANC going forward? If what they put forward makes sense, we will constructively engage with it. If it doesn't make sense, we will not support it. We are not cannon fodder. We are not voting cattle. We are here to engage. And we're happy that the people of South Africa last year decided to eventually implement Chapter 1 of the Constitution of a multi-party democracy and a government that is based on that. Whatever terms you put of GNUs, etc., we don't care about flowery terms. But all of us are here to make this country work. Now you ask about joining the GNU. We are talking about passing a budget. We are not talking about joining the GNU. The party has spoken. We are outside the GNU. We are not prophets. We don't know what is going to happen. But we're also not stupid. There are principles that we've put out there. We will not be part of a bloated government. Part of balancing the budget is to reduce the size of the executive. So there are things that we will stick to as matters of principle. And if the ANC is prepared to ensure that we make savings, we become efficient, we get rid of corruption, we have bills that are going to be proposed about the anti-corruption bill. We have an agenda that puts citizens first, not our party first. This is about all of us, rich, poor, black and white. And when we say no VAT, everybody talks like VAT only hurts the poor. VAT hurts every citizen. All our expenses go up. Life becomes unaffordable for all of us. Amidst the corruption, amidst the waste, we say no to any rise in VAT. We say no to any creep on taxes. If this action was not taken, VAT would rise on the 1st of May. People should remember that. We've agreed and we've put a solution so that there's engagement and the processes of ensuring that we have a government that runs, we have a budget that is approved, can unfold. It does not mean we are not going to negotiate. But there are certain things that we've put as red lines. No VAT is a red line for us. And that's what we stand by.
Thank you very much, Caucus Leader. I'm going to pass now to Honorable Beasley.
Thanks. So I was approached by the DA to say they wanted to have a discussion with me. They never got hold of me. I followed up several times and we still haven't had that engagement. And I'm not going to personalise the engagement because I don't want to make somebody feel quite embarrassed by it all, but there just wasn't a further engagement despite myself repeating out several times. But I also want to highlight something that's very important. The DA's proposal is not the same as ours. The DA proposed a 0.5% VAT increase, and then they subjected to stuff outside the budget, and they also proposed a tax bracket creep. They're the ones who put it in the budget. It wasn't first in the budget. From day one, we said no tax increase, no VAT increase. So our proposal's been consistent. Their proposal, what they submitted to the government, was a VAT increase and a tax bracket creep. So their proposals have never been the same as ours. We're the only party that stood right from the beginning saying no VAT increase and no tax increase. So I just want to reject that thought that their proposals are the same as ours. Their proposal wasn't the same as ours. It was a 0.5% VAT increase and also tax bracket creep. Thank you.
Whip it.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to remind the room that the DA actually has the Deputy Minister of Finance. And so it's very strange what is happening and what their actions are. But anyway, we are here to serve the people of South Africa, and we are not here to play. And so we keep saying, and I want to reiterate this, I use it all the time, and we use it all the time now in the party. If you believe that you are too small to make a difference, the Dalai Lama has remixed it to say, try spending a night with the mosquito. We intend to be that mosquito on behalf of the people of South Africa, and we are unrelenting on that. Whether people want to disuse their Joseph Goebbels machinery to propagate and use propaganda to mislead the people of South Africa, fortunately, there are so many ways to reach the people on the ground for them to understand what it is that we stand for, and we are unrelenting in that regard. I think there's another round. We do have time. Please go for it.
Just maybe a question to Mr. The budget, of course, is twofold, threefold, with many elements to it. What do you propose the government does increase? Because, I mean, spending cuts won't necessarily give you all that, and giving SARS the money in the hope that they will raise the funds and they will claw back money from those who owe their money. I mean, that's not a really credible budget, because we're living in hope, and we're living in hope that SARS will get the money. So what increases do you propose to raise revenue? Because again, spending cuts alone will not get you to that point of raising about 30 billion rand. Revenue streams come through.
Apologies for that. It seems we have lost a bit of our connection to that particular briefing, but I think the thrust of what ActionSA has been trying to communicate has in fact been communicated. And in fact, it seems what this briefing was about was pushing back against the messaging from a number of organizations yesterday, including the DA and the EFF, who essentially have suggested that ActionSA has sold out by allowing this VAT increase through. Our connection is now reestablished. Let's take you back to that room.
That's been assessed, that hasn't been collected yet. So we're talking significant amount of money. These are people who've got their assessments, but because SARS is under-resourced, they can't go after this money. So as ActionSA, and I think that the finance minister gets it too, is that money is going to be easily collectible. We're talking 30 billion. We believe it's going to be easy for SARS to collect that money. It's 500 billion, and there's a 300 billion tax gap. And the money is also not only about getting the money, it's stopping illicit trade. Illicit trade is destroying our economy. So we think it's going to be a vital intervention, this extra funding to SARS, and we think it'll be easy for them. But having said that, we are going to propose other alternatives, like our caucus leader was saying, in terms of other tax on gambling and other areas too. So we believe it's going to be easily possible. And also it's 1% of a 2 trillion expenditure, so it should be easy to be achieved. And I think with rational minds, and also engaging with Razum Zanzi, with BOSA, they've also got proposals. It's also interesting, I've got a huge ideological difference with Kasatu, but I respect them because they stand up on principle. He's also suggested certain solutions to me, so I'm going to engage with people who want to put South Africans first to come up with pragmatic solutions, and that is that we're going to take to the Finance Minister, and we're hoping to do it next week.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Jason. Are you having the final word? All right. So I'm going to give it to the caucus leader, perhaps to close for us.
All right. Just a final word. I think Alan covered the revenue collection part, but I think what's really important are the expenditure reviews that come to Parliament year in and year out. They get ignored, like the Zondo Commission report. Expenditure reviews are crucial because that's where you can actually balance your budget. Run a company and have a look. You've got to make sure that your inlet pipe is bigger than your outlet pipe. So if you start having expenditure reviews, you immediately cut your budget. Therefore, you can fund the issues like that, the extension of the social relief of distress grant. We weren't certain who the other political parties were that were going to support this. But ironically, they were in that same block where we sit. ActionSA, Razum Zanzi, and BOSA. Hello, this is a big issue. Why? Because the Standing Committee on Public Accounts is chaired by Songezo Zibi. The Standing Committee on Appropriations is chaired by Musi Maimane. Those political parties are going to be crucial in the passage of this budget. They're going to be crucial in the monitoring of expenditure. So now we actually have some more safeguards. And the parties that are desperately outside of the loop now, trying to find scapegoats for misplaying their hands, are going to understand that what happened here is a safeguard in Parliament that the ANC doesn't carry on behaving the way they have done for the last 30 years. Things changed dramatically in Parliament yesterday. And you know what? There's a saying that says, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. We are not going to be fooled by the ANC. And if the ANC fool us, that's their choice. But they'll be fooling South Africans, and that'll be the end of the ANC. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, caucus leader. Thank you very much to our Honourable Alan Beasley, who's worked very, very hard to get us to where we are now. And all what we want is for South Africans to understand in layman's terms that what we are doing is fighting for them. And we do not care whether we are ridiculed or whether we are made to be misunderstood. But we will go to the ground, we will do the work that needs to be done for South Africans to finally understand that it is not business as usual, and it is a good thing for South Africa. Competition is a good thing for our politics, because now, as the caucus leader has said, it is not a free-for-all. Had the government been as big as it was under the ANC on their own, they would have passed that budget as it is, VAT hike, no VAT hike, they would have gone and explained it, and that would have been the end of the day. So we are finally at the point where the aspirations of our constitution are being realized in this moment. It's a historic moment. We are very proud, South Africans, all 6 of us, as we stand here and sit here before you, to explain ourselves, but more so to be accountable, as we have promised, that we will be accountable, we will be honest, and we will tell the truth. If we make a mistake, we will own that mistake. If we do good, we will support what is good. If people come, irrespective of who they are, if they come with good proposals, we will support them. If those put South Africans first. Thank you very much. My name is Lerato Ngobeni. I do serve also as the national spokesperson of ActionSA under the leadership of the excellent Mr. Herman Mashaba. Thank you very much.
All right, Lerato Ngobeni there, as you heard, is a spokesperson for ActionSA. That briefing had wrapped up a while ago. She was just really repeating what had already been said. But the thrust really was ActionSA pushing back against the messaging from the DA and I guess in some instances the EFF that they'd sold out by pushing through this increase in value-added tax. They've said multiple times that in fact, as far as they're concerned, this was just about making sure there's a budget for the country so that other things aren't affected, including the hiring of teachers, nurses, ensuring that SARS is capacitated, but have reiterated their disagreement, for lack of a better term, with an increase in value-added tax. And another issue, by the way, which is not getting as much attention, which is the bracket creep, I beg your pardon, essentially meaning that net incomes will be lower if in fact there isn't adjustment for inflation. But I'll take you through some of the salient quotes. They say, cut the fat, leave VAT. That's certainly a phrase it seems they're hoping will reverberate in their messaging. In fact, they've also added that their support for the ANC's budget is hinged on these conditions around a 30-day window period for National Treasury to come back with alternative revenue streams. They say if the ANC fools them by not seeing this through, then they'll use votes on other bills to do with the budget as leverage. In other words, they'll pull their support in order to make sure that other aspects of the budget aren't necessarily passed. He says, Athol Trollop that is, that the party has brought pragmatic steps to making sure that there isn't a higher cost essentially. And she's also added there that they've taken legal advice and believe that these were necessary steps in order, of course, to protect the interests of South Africans. Of course, what remains now is word from the DA around what they'll do next. Before I forget, ActionSA is saying that if the DA were to leave the government of national unity, they will reevaluate their position as the opposition. And if it makes sense, they're happy to step into the breach. I think that's a very important statement, of course, and worth keeping in mind.